We can press countdown if you want to count us down 30 seconds. I'll already
There's
live.
no countdown. We are live.
So,
Welcome to Founders Chat live show. As always, I'm Alex with my co-host Joe. The only show
so
with no script, no agenda, no filter, only hot business topics and founders and their opinions.
and to
So
prove
it's
I've
a
got no
great show.
filter, to prove I've got no filter, you will enjoy the first topic, I'm sure, because it's something that's really grown to annoy me, and I'm sure Alex as well.
We've got a great show today. Lots of interesting things to discuss. But Joe, it sounds like you want to take the lead on the first point of discussion. So
Okay,
let's get started.
this is a topic Alex thought might have been too controversial for the show, so that should tell you everything. So I'm not sure if you've noticed, but I think founders and entrepreneurs, I'm saying this as someone who runs his own business and has for 2.5 years, I think they've become incredibly self-important and egotistical in their own mind, and they reflect that onto other people. So you're scrolling LinkedIn or whatever, and you see people heavily dramatizing their lives to appear super self-important and super important to everyone else's story. They think they're Frodo Baggins taking the ring of power to Mordor when they're not. In reality, you just run a business trying to make a few quid. It is the most self-important nonsense I have ever heard, because this really came to my mind recently when I was in a certain, let's say, private community, and someone couldn't get signed up to something, or they got kicked off something like that. And they reply a massive long, multi-message, multi-paragraph long response. And the highlight was, a founder's time is very important. I shouldn't feel so disrespected by this. And I just thought to myself, mate, who the fuck do you think you are, you self-important dickhead? Your time is no more important than anybody else's. Just because you run a business and you think you're so important doesn't mean anything. So, what's your response and opinion on this topic, Alex?
It's like this confidence thing. People usually go through the stages when they start a business. They're struggling at the start. You always, like everybody does, you come in cocky, and then you find actually, shit, this is hard. And then things don't work out, and then eventually, if you stick through it, you figure it out.
I
And
think
you
we I
start
think we met.
closing deals.
I think we met like 6 or 7 months into me running a business, give or take, maybe a little bit more. So you
Yeah.
essentially seen me like do this cycle that you're talking about. Like, I went to live in Dubai. I've tried to be like a big hot shot and all that. But when I went to Dubai, I looked around us and just saw a bunch of like massive nerds. It's just in the way they were talking. They were referring to themselves as killers, as the shit, as some big superstar. And I just thought to myself, mate, you sell a niche B2B software. You are not a killer. Why are you trying to flex on people for no reason when you're sat in your apartment working 16 hours a day, just paying for Dubai prostitutes because you're too scared to talk to women? They were just nerds, massive, massive nerds. So I had to fully remove myself
Uh,
from that situation.
so yeah, what I've noticed is people go through that. Entrepreneurs, first time founders go through that stage. Usually, they start with full confidence, then they crash the valley of despair, like it doesn't work, and like the moment they get a little bit of success, it's like their ego just gets so blown out of proportion. It's crazy. Um, just recently, I had a chat with someone I've been helping out for probably about must have been a year and a half. Like I'm not
Mm-hmm.
joking. Like 18 months. They tried to start a business and they've been trying, and for like a year and a half, they kept going, but it was just going nowhere. And like recently, they closed for the first time. They started like, okay, I've done a bit of a pivot. I've taken some of the advice and just like, okay, I've closed a couple of sales. And suddenly they're just like, I know what I'm doing. Don't you give me any feedback.
They
I
start
know,
acting like
I
Jordan
know that.
Belfort.
Like,
They
I get
start
it,
acting
I
like
get it.
Jordan Belfort.
It's like, I get it, yeah, but I'll do whatever I want because I've got it figured out now. It's like,
No, I fully understand
for
that.
God's
Like,
sake.
I fully understand that. Like, I was talking to someone who'd just been in business. I was on Founders Tree, ironically. They'd started their business about 7, 8 months ago. And I was basically saying that is the most fun I've had in my business. Even though I'm like, life's a lot easier now. I know where my next customer is. Business is better now than it was in those first 6, 7 months. But that's feeling of having nothing to lose early on was just so fun and exciting because you couldn't really fail in a way, if you get what I'm saying. Like if you get rejected from a proposal or you can do outreach straight away, you haven't built up this back catalogue of success that you feel like you have to maintain. So I do see why it happens, but I think when it happens to people and no one in their like immediate circle points it out, that tells me they've got poor friends around them.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, to be honest. I feel like it's an ego thing. Sorry, Joe, quickly, by the way, can you reply to like the LinkedIn comments on chat? Because
I can
it doesn't let
show.
me.
I can
Or you can
show. I
show, but
can't.
if you type a reply, if you post a comment, does it come as LinkedIn? Because like mine goes on
Yeah.
YouTube,
Oh, it tells me
but it
LinkedIn.
doesn't let me to do LinkedIn.
No, I can see the LinkedIn. Like we have.
But can you reply? Can you type
No,
a comment?
no.
That's strange.
Oh well.
Uh,
But when you were saying that there, I always think of
sorry,
the.
the lovely citizens of LinkedIn. I see you, I hear you, I cannot reply to you.
Obviously, I'm
Just
like
wanted
big
to
on my
say.
box. Obviously, I'm big on my boxing and stuff like that. So when you were saying that thing there about people getting their win, getting the momentum, thinking they're all of this, I always think of the Brendan Ingle quote, the bloke who ran the Winkerbank gym in Sheffield, like Kell Brook, Prince Nassim Hamed, Johnny Nelson, like all world champions, all top
Yeah.
fighters. He fell out with Prince Nassim Hamed. And he always one of the thing that he said that always sticks with this is be nice to people on the way up because they're the people you'll see on the way back down. Because you don't just succeed and keep succeeding forever. It's gonna
Mm.
be one win, one loss, few wins, constant losses. That's just the way life is, and especially business. So when I see people like being a bit of a dickhead to people, overly dramatizing their life for whatever purpose to make a fuss, I just think when you take a few L's, these people you haven't been nice to, that's when you'll realize that you should have been.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like you should remember, I remember every single person that ever helped me, and I'm grateful, and I would never like go back and give them shit. Like I might disagree, and if you disagree, that's okay.
Yeah,
It's
obviously.
not always about just like, taking people's word, but it's about respecting people's selves. And if they're telling you something, if they're trying to help you, that's fine. Just take the feedback, process it, and go. But don't just get lost in that, oh, I've got a few wins now, suddenly I'm, this big person, I'm much more important than you because now I got ahead or something. Just like chill.
I do think that's definitely in the world of like online business, that's definitely become more prevalent
Yeah.
in founders and business owners. They do seem to look like I
Mm.
met another business owner who runs like some sort of remote sales agency, like when I was in Dubai. So you follow each other on Instagram, you keep up with each other, that sort of stuff. And over Christmas, he was posting on his story, like working like 9 hours a day on Christmas Eve or whatever, saying, this is why I'm above you normies and stuff like that. And I just thought, mate, get a life for fuck's sake. It's Christmas Eve. Go and see your family. It's not that deep. You can not work 9 hours one day. Just be a normal, nice person. It's not hard.
Yeah. Yeah, another thing, I've noticed with people personality changing massively as well. As soon as
But
they
as
get a bit of
success
success,
comes,
it's yeah, they just like they start like resenting all the gurus and stuff, right?
Hmm.
45
So
degree
me.
ego. Oh, hey Matt, by the way, welcome. Um, what I've noticed is people's personality just shifts. Like they start again, they go through this cycle. They look at all the gurus and all those bullshitters and both, all of those self-centered assholes. And others start like, oh, I can't stand these guys. I can't stand these guys. But then as soon as they get a bit of win, they become them. They start becoming them. It's like a full cycle. They
Yeah.
they they start with like, "Yeah, these guys are full of shit. Can't stand them. Can't talk. They're terrible." And then, like 6 months later, once somebody closes, like I found the threshold is like, or if you've closed like 50, 100 grand in business, suddenly they're like, "Oh, I am the boss," and they don't realize that they start doing what they hated as
I
well.
was I was a total opposite personally. When I hit that 50K threshold, I realized what the gurus told me were just lies and just wasn't reality. So I grew to hate them even more. But I remember you talking once, you worked with someone who like started a niche community or something and got a good few members and ended up joining the
Mm.
what was the blueprint or something that it was called.
Yeah.
Yeah, and ended up joining that and joining the enemies.
It's a bit crazy. Hi, Owen. How are you doing?
No,
Hello.
imagine
I
not
see
going
a,
to.
I see a LinkedIn user. Definitely agree with what you're saying to treat people with respect. I don't know why it doesn't tell me the name. That's really weird.
No, I
Um,
fully agree with that person though. It's just like I'm making the kind of personal brand I want to build on LinkedIn isn't one where I'm like dramatizing my life, whatever. It's one where people think I'm good at what I do and just think I'm a nice, cool person to work with. I don't want to be this massive online influencer with 100,000 followers selling, I don't know, consultancy sessions for 500 quid. I just want to be a nice, cool guy people like and do business with. Because I think that's a better long term sustainable thing, building a good reputation than trying to make all this money immediately in creating this facade.
Owen made another good point. Imagine not working 26 hours a day.
Yeah, I know. Imagine having
That's
other
another thing.
interests
Like people
outside of
start
work.
normalizing that as well. People start normalizing that as well. And, I'm guilty of it sometime. I gotta say I'm guilty of working too much, but I've learned to make um time in the day for myself.
Mhm.
So I don't normally like take days off unless I feel I have to.
Mhm.
But I have like couple of hours every single day. That's just me time. I
Yeah.
don't care. I go do my training, do my gym or like go for a walk or just chill, watch some
Yeah.
telly.
Like
Just,
I
just
trained this
like
morning.
this is my time. I don't care.
Like me and one of the lads from the gym this morning just went and traded some pads at like 8 o'clock in the morning, just for an hour. It's just a nice, cool way to start the day and keep improving in that aspect of your life. Because in my first year in business, I worked like double the hours that I work now. Like there'd be like 6 days a week, 7 days a week, 8 to 12 hours every single day. And yeah, it gives you a great foundation. But my personal life didn't exist. And it gets to the point where what's the point in working all those hours if you get no benefit to being self-employed and doing your own thing.
Yeah, it's not sustainable. Speaking of benefits and working all of those hours, I think we should jump onto the next topic, and it goes nicely into the 100K tax trap.
Yeah, insane.
So, this is mostly for UK. This is not US or anywhere else in Europe, but UK just changed the taxes slightly, and it's gonna affect 2 million people in UK. Some are employees, but a lot of them are small business owners. So this includes many successful startup founders and small business owners. And basically, after you reach 100K in earnings, in revenue, you lose your personal allowance. So for those from outside of UK, we have a personal allowance. The first sort of, I think it's about 14 grand now, doesn't get taxed. So that's tax free, your first 14K of earnings. And then that gets reduced the more you earn. And obviously the tax threshold goes from 0 to like 40% once you're over the certain threshold. But they've changed the law, so now after 100K, not only you get taxed at the maximum 40% threshold, you also lose your personal allowance. So if you're between 100 and 125,000 in earnings, you're basically getting taxed at like 60% rate of effective earnings. So for every for every pound you pay 60p in taxes. That's absolutely crazy.
Oh, it's outrageous. It's insane.
It's like this country is trying to just like kill small businesses.
Oh, absolutely. Like my because that does multiple things. One, it makes, for example, like some of the software tools I buy more expensive. So that ruins my margin. So I'm paying more tax, and I've got to pay higher margins on all of the tools that I use, or people are higher, all that sort of thing. So then I've got to up my prices, which then hits my clients and makes it difficult to close deals, all that sort of stuff. It's just a constant trickle down effect that doesn't solve the real issues. Some of the, like an example in the UK, why don't they tax all the companies that have bought up land and are refusing to do anything with it? If you have dormant land, you're not building office buildings, you're not building housing, you're not building anything. Why doesn't that get taxed? That would massively help the housing crisis for one.
I've noticed like a lot of Matt's made a great point. A middle class just not wanted. They don't want us here.
No, I feel like it gets to the point where you genuinely, like when I was doing the math, because I remember the October budget end of last year. Like about 2 weeks later, a few of my software tools, like I had an extra 25% in price, and I was doing my margins, thinking, Jesus, is this really worth all the hassle? What it's worth. And that's what a lot of small business owners are thinking, realistically.
By the way, if anybody wants to join me on stage, I can't post the link. If anybody wants to join us on stage, it wouldn't let me post the link here, but you can just DM me on LinkedIn and I will see it because it doesn't let me. It allows me to put it in the chat, but I feel like my comment only goes to YouTube. There we go. It only goes to YouTube. There you go, guys. That's the link on the screen.
So I don't really know what the long term, I don't know what the benefit is to this really. It's just going to encourage more
Well,
people to do some of the dodgy accountancy.
what many people have been doing, and I've got a bit of a hot take on this.
Okay.
So people basically stop trying to withdraw the money. So they either invest in the business, which is fine.
Mhm.
You just cut your salary and invest everything into growth. You can write that off from your profit.
Mhm.
Some other people invest heavily into pension, so they put a lot of the leftover money into pension. I'm not a big fan of pensions, especially if you're young. If you're in your 50s, fair play. It can be fairly good tax break for you. But I've got a bit of a hot take on pensions for young people, for people in the 20s or even late 30s.
Mhm.
Um, and it's probably much better to just put money in stocks. Take the tax hit, put it in stocks or something, because Um,
Especially in the UK,
the
the
pension
retirement age
rules
is going to become
changed.
80 anyway. By the time we're old enough to
Yeah,
get the pension, we're going to be basically dead.
the pension rules changed so much recently. I think we've increased the pension age in UK by like
Yeah, it is.
6 years in the last
68,
10
yeah.
years.
Mhm.
So by the time like you hit the pension age, the pension's gonna be at like 75. You can't
Mhm.
withdraw the money before that. And the thing is, after that, if you do want to withdraw it, you still have to pay the taxes.
No, I know.
Um, so it's like what's the point of this game? Yeah,
Yeah,
Owen made a great point. It's silly they want economic growth, but are crushing small businesses who are actually, doing most of the work. Another thing, this has a big problem for growth businesses. So for businesses that are fast growing, when you start hiring high level talent around that tax break, it makes retention very difficult, right? Because
yeah.
people will want like non-cash benefits because they're looking at the statement like, well, I can earn 80, 90 grand and get this, or I can get 125 grand and basically get the same amount of money.
No, for real.
So like, what the hell is the point? Um, so you have to go into like extra holidays, flexible hours,
Mhm.
and other non-cash benefits that will help retain talent
Because
as
I'm not
well.
sure if you've seen it.
Uh,
You might have not, but there was a study came out yesterday on Monday. I remember seeing it all over LinkedIn and X and all that sort of stuff, where it was a larger percentage of Gen Zs are more disinterested at work than ever. And it's because they know they're going to get taxed for oblivion. And they're never going to be able to buy a house on their own, realistically. The only chance you've got is you've got another partner making similar income levels to you. So then they know they're not going to get the benefits that you used to get from working 40 hours a week, commuting an hour to the office, an hour back. So they're not trying as hard, which is a waste of time, especially after the minimum wage increase. You can get the same work in a warehouse as you will in a marketing agency.
yeah, that's the funny bit, isn't it?
So why would you
Um,
try so hard in a marketing agency when you can just go to a warehouse with your mates, have some crack, and just have a laugh and make the exact same money?
yeah, Owen raised a good point. Private pensions are a little bit okay. Like you can withdraw some of it at 55, but again, like if you're 25, 55 is a long way. And I'll
Yeah.
tell you what, I've had some friends that have been on private pensions and they are in that age bracket that I'm quite close with. Hi, Diego. And I've seen a lot of private pensions screwing people up with where they invest the money as well. Um,
Mhm.
so it's not as optimal, I feel like, as getting your maybe your own investment broker, if just investing simply in like S&P or something and just keeping it there. Um,
I'd like to move on to the topic 5 on the list, the small business confidence, like hits post-pandemic low. Because I think this brings up a
mm.
conversation I was having yesterday with a friend of mine. How I noticed it, especially late last year. It's one of the reasons I've massively publicly niched my marketing and branding now.
Sorry,
People,
Joe, do you want to just give people an overview of what we're talking about?
I think this is more your skill set, so you can go for it. I'm more of the opinion guy. You're better at explaining things.
A Federation of Small Businesses recently released a confidence index, and it's plunged to the lowest level since 2020. The primary culprit, taxation. Nearly two-thirds of small businesses cited tax burdens as the number one worry for 2026. So whilst the economy on paper is technically growing. The cost of doing business, like national insurance contributions, minimum wage hikes, energy cost, which absolutely crazy right now, are eating up into the profits that would normally be reinvested into the business. So on paper, economy is growing, but the actual balance sheets and profit margins say otherwise. So some of the talking points, um, many founders are shifting from growth at all costs to actually being more defensive and resilience and focusing on profitability. 26% of small businesses are reported reducing their headcount last quarter as well. So people are cutting their headcount. And is automation the cure? The dip in confidence is driving a record number of small businesses to invest in AI tools to replace basic roles like administration and customer service.
That's the point I was gonna really expand on, because especially in this last quarter of last year, I had multiple sales calls where I had three guys come back to me after about 2 months. Like once, I'm thinking one tomorrow, and instead of investing in a service like mine, which is comfortably four figures, they decided they were like, I can try Cross for $70 a month and see if it works for like maybe if they do 60% of this four-figure investment, it'll be worth it. So they try Cross for a few months, massively messes up their LinkedIn, damages their reputation, and they come back to a service like mine. And that's what I'm seeing with a lot of small business owners. Instead of investing like is a near enough sure thing, they'd say, can this cheap investment do the job of a website developer? That's why every small business, it seems now, has the same frame AI website template. Or can Grok replace my graphic designer? It's why a lot of companies now are using like AI slop as their main graphical branding across all their marketing methods. And this lack of this short-term thinking almost just is because of things like this.
It comes from both sides. Diego, yeah, they have to still fulfill the tasks, but people are reluctant to adopt AI automations, and rightly so. There's another topic actually on the list around that.
It's because I think people get the wrong end of the argument. The whole AI will take your job argument. People immediately respond to that saying AI can't be as good as me. But that's not how the consumers think. They'll think, okay, you say for argument's sake cost £2,000 or $2,000. You might be perfect, best in the game for 2 grand. They'll look at some AI tool charging $19 and think, if this can do 60% of a 2 grand investment, that's the common sense approach. So it's not you being worse than AI at your service that's going to cost you. It's the consumer looking at super cheap prices, thinking, I might as well save best part of 2 grand on a $19 software that can do half the job. That's how AI is going to kill most general businesses, in my opinion. It's not right, but it's just how the human brain works to look for a bargain. And if I can get 50% for 20 quid or 100% for 2 grand, I'll take the 50% for 20 quid.
Yeah, and it comes down from that pressure on both ends, right? From one side, you have the pressure of like the tax hikes, the costs of running business are increasing, the competition is increasing, the noise in sales is increasing, right? So it's harder and harder and harder to like stand out and get things done and get business. So you've got that pressure on the business side, so your profits are going down, your costs are increasing, and then you've got all the AI marketing coming up saying, oh yeah, this tool can do all of this work, even if it doesn't fully. But for a small business owner, right, that's what people have to understand. on LinkedIn, there's this big, like, people live in the tiny bubbles. And I feel like the online business LinkedIn site or social media, people think that everybody is an expert and knows everything. The average small business owner doesn't know 90% of their business, right? They're good at what they're doing. They're good at their skill, whatever that skill is, whether it's providing a service or like, building something or engineering something, whatever the business is, they're an expert at that. What they're not expert at is sales, marketing, automations, right? And reading a ChatGPT cheat sheet doesn't make you an expert at any of those.
No, it
It still
doesn't.
doesn't make you a sales
Like,
expert
I think
and a
I
marketing
like
expert
the
and an
comment Matthew
operations
just made.
expert.
It's
Um,
not that AI is better than the human output. It's that AI is significantly cheaper. And people look at a cheap investment and say, even if it's a bit bad, even if it's a bit crap, it's less than 10% of the full service. If it goes wrong, it's a much lower investment. Because especially with the previous topics we spoke about, people can't afford to take the risks that maybe they did 10 years ago, potentially.
yeah. Which again, like, brings a potential risk and an opportunity for those who can invest, because whilst I am 100% agreeing that you need to take every advantage you can from AI.
Like AI is a massive part of my business, for example.
Yeah,
It's cut my costs massively. Like I now no longer need to pay for Sales Nav or Apollo because of a really smart custom GPT that I made that can use the same databases for what ChatGPT Pro costs, which is like a tenth of LinkedIn Sales Nav. You can do little things like that.
yeah. So I do agree that people need to, and we had the same discussion with Stefan last week. People need to absolutely take advantage of everything they can, but they need to get out of that mindset that a 50 quid tool can replace an expert. Because you still
Yeah,
need like
that's
the
a perfect
expert
summary.
opinion, AI, and the setup to like use it effectively, because just the tool on its own is only as good as the user, right? Just because I give you a hammer doesn't mean you can build a house,
It's
and
like
that's the
when I
mistake most people make.
It's like when I say that AI will kill like generalist marketers this year,
Oh yeah,
or LinkedIn marketers. I don't say that because AI is better at marketing than these, in a lot of cases, very good marketers. It's that if you're a generalist, not promising to fix one specific problem, AI, and say you charge £1,000 for that solution, the generalist B2B marketer, someone's going to come to there and think, they're okay, they're pretty good, they're £1,000. Or am I going to pay $19 for insert X tool that's being marketed that says it'll solve my one problem that I have right now?
yeah.
It's not the fact that AI is better than the marketing solution, it's that they can market one benefit and charge less than 10% of the price.
There are some more problems with that topic, so I want to jump to the next topic, which ties into that perfectly. Is there's been a report from IT Trends this year. New report specifically for SMEs warns that the biggest barrier to using the new AI agents unveiled at the CES last week, and all the good stuff that's coming up, is dark data. Most small businesses, and this is not as much prevalent for startups, but more for businesses that have been operating for 5 years or longer already. Most of small businesses actually don't have the right data. Their information is still scattered across old spreadsheets, PDFs, some old emails. And the issue is, without good data structure, the AI tools hallucinate or just completely fail. So the new trend for 2026 for startups, and I urge anyone starting a company right now, actually, I just had a discussion with someone today about that, funnily enough, is data hygiene. So making sure that you've got good records so that AI can actually use them. So if you come across a new agent that can sort out your finances or something, you need good data that's categorized well, labeled well, in the right places, and complete. I just had that discussion with a very, very fresh startup founder, first time founder, that's just started a business, got the first couple of sales, and we had a chat about sales. And they said they're not tracking leads, they're not tracking any conversations, they're not tracking conversions. They've just got like zero data on anything they're doing, which it's not going to work with any AI agent, right? You need good data. So one of the
Just
talking
hope.
points here, before buying any flashy AI tools, spend some time cleaning the house and moving your data maybe into a centralized, searchable cloud format like a CRM or some specific database. What is everyone thinking?
Yeah, it just makes sense. I'd like if you're talking to more than I'd say like five potential customers, you need a good CRM. You need one that tells you what the main concerns are, what part of the pipeline they're in, because you will forget. You think a note in your notepad will mean you won't forget, but you will forget without set reminders in your CRM. They'll email you on the day you need to follow up. Like I've done this for years. It will. Like the difference in client results when when I didn't have a CRM to client results when I did is like an extra 10 plus calls a month for certain offers.
Yeah, you absolutely have to, and I'm guilty of some of it as well.
How do you? That's a good question. How do you use AI with Founders Tree?
No, um, we don't really use much of it actually.
Really?
We use some automations for sales,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff, but like we don't. Sorry, coding.
Mm-hmm.
Use it for development and coding, but I don't really use anything else. Um, Sorry, we use like a scraping agent as well. That's AI driven. That checks data and picks leads from the right places for outreach. So that's a thing. But other than sales and development, um, not really. I would like to hope that I can give finance side to AI or
I
some
use a
other
lot of
stuff,
AI
but
in
I
my
don't think
general business. I use a lot more AI than I used to. AI helps us, especially with lead magnet creation. It helps us because obviously I work in like renewables, energy, like those sort of really technical industries. AI helps us take that and fit like the super complex stuff into human language that people want to talk about and understand. AI has replaced sales, and I use AI to gather the data and filter to a certain extent, but then I double check it and make sure it's actually accurate, but that's cut the sales nav scroll time massively. I use AI for a lot of my own marketing now because I've posted on LinkedIn for years. I've got 10 articles on my website that are human written, so I can use. I'm speaking to certain AI platforms and it already knows everything about my life pretty much, so I can produce good content from that. But I guess the general theme of that, if you input hundreds of pieces of good content or information to AI, it'll make your life so much easier. Like I pretty much when I had a chat with a good friend of mine called Robert Gillespie on LinkedIn. He was a really smart AI guy. If you want to know about AI in marketing, check out him. And talking to him, it essentially allows to cut 10 to 15 hours out of my week out my working week, which is why I was able to take 3 fights in 6 weeks last summer, because AI gave us enough time to train for 3 hard fights back to back.
Yeah, it all comes down to the right data, right? But if you haven't got the right
100%.
data,
You see it a lot with people who have just started their business and are nervous about outreach or whatever. So they just use HeyReach or Prosper, insert your favorite AI automation tool on the market and use the data they've got from all of their other clients, and you blast the same templated sequence. And it's why the traditional like mass outreach has pretty much fell off a cliff in the second half of last year. It's got to be proper like PR style marketing with constant touch points in the DMs. That's what outreach is now. It's why I don't market myself as lead gen. I'm more focused on closing a couple of contracts across our period of working together and getting you all these meetings, because the days of the one sales call close or 3 sales call close have massively, you will get the odd one, but it's now the anomaly. Now we'll have a sales call with, like, I'll have a sales call with someone in August, I'll chat with them again in December, and then because they tried using AI that didn't work, then I'm now speaking to them on Friday. That's how the modern sales cycle sort of is.
trust. That's funny thing, right? I'm hoping. Well, I'm hoping. That's why I'm building Founders Tree as well, right? I feel like trust will become the most important currency, and building like real connections will become the most important currency in business. Sales and lead gen has its place, but it's just getting so spammy and so generic.
I think generic lead gen will die this year, 1000%. It'll be the same. I used this analogy yesterday because I know last week I predicted that AI will experience like a massive crash this year. But I kind of compare it to like the video game crash of the early 80s, where there was 100+ consoles on the market, but Nintendo just essentially killed all the rest of them off. So it looked on paper the industry grew, but just one company took the business of all the rest of them. I think that'll be the same with AI automation tools this year, because there's too many on the market at the same price doing something similar. The best 2 or 3 will probably take over the entire market this year, because there's too many. There's too many that charge the same price, have the same website, have the same marketing, have the same cold email templates, that that many can't succeed. It's humanly impossible.
And speaking of generic, and what's been fairly generic is all the sexy AI stuff, which brings us to our next topic, is the Startups 100, which is a list of the top startups in UK, has actually released a new list this week with a platform called Omnia. Omnia, I don't know how the hell to pronounce it. But it's an AI-driven procurement platform. So they decided to skip the sexy stuff, all this, lead gen, amazing, it's gonna do all this crazy stuff. And they just automated the boring parts of business for enterprise clients, like managing vendors, contracts, internal spend. So the topic is, will the unsexy startup solving boring problems become the fastest way to unicorn status in 2026?
Maybe. Well, I've niched into a stereotypical boring industry away from all the sexy online ones, because I think that's the easiest way to succeed in my line of work. So it makes sense that AI can be something similar.
And that's the thing, like people are, it's great to dream big, but maybe that's the key. Maybe that's the key this year, where everyone wants to promise the world and the heaven and the earth. and say that, "Oh, our AI agents just gonna replace all the expensive employees and gonna do all this great stuff, just gonna run the business for you." Maybe automating some of the just very boring shit stuff that nobody wants to do. Maybe that's the way forward, right?
Yeah.
So, like I
I mean,
said,
that's
things
kind of,
like that, things like procurement, things like, I feel like another thing that go into it is what we had to spend. We had, I've not seen that many AI platforms go into just like accounting. I noticed there's some startups going into that, but just like AI accountant, someone checking all the stuff and asking you for receipts. An agent just doing that. Imagine that, right? That you can just paste the receipts into and it will categorize everything and file everything for you. Where is that, right? Maybe it already exists. Maybe I'm just not up to date.
I'm trying to think, like, what would be my dream AI tool would be something that can validate and create perfect lead lists without my human eye. But that's just not realistic because you only figure out perfect leads by working in the industry and figuring out like little signs, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and that's been my problem with that as well, right? But it's a good topic. Like that's the thing.
Like my
Founders should look at the boring internal processes that are just like massive headache. If you're
like my
thinking about starting a startup, sorry, go on.
I was gonna say my genius idea for a business I had last year when I might have been a little bit not sober was I'd create something called like Mini Joe, and it would be like the ultimate lead gen virtual assistant. So it would have my knowledge of how to perfectly create lead lists of ideal cut of ICPs, how to hit them, how to track them on the CRM, but I need to figure out a way to extract my brain into perfectly AI.
Yeah, that's the hard part because like the whole lead gen side is just a bit shit because the data is just so inaccurate and scattered.
No, yeah. Like one
Um,
of my USPs I'm really focusing on this year is like I personally create all the lead lists now because extracting them from Apollo
mm.
IO or even Sales Nav directly without the human eye, you get maybe about 35% of them are accurate because all these certain keywords and that, so many fall into the trap.
But that's the thing, right? That's the thing. Like it's all about everybody just wants to go super scale, heavy scale, right? I am in a group with like a lot of people that do cold outreach on mass, and they just go like plug in clay, a bunch of signals, like this company at this stage said this somewhere, and they just send like 10,000 emails, 50,000 emails, 100,000 emails.
It's like I had
Or even LinkedIn. There's a bunch of tools that allow you to just buy fake LinkedIn accounts,
no, I
and
know.
you can just buy like 100 LinkedIn accounts to send 2,000 connection requests per day,
No, you're right.
which is
Accounts do
just
that.
like crazy.
It's like being a virtual. You just hire fake accounts to blast outreach from. It's exactly what it what it is. Because what was I going to say? Sorry. Oh, it's just slipped my throat. Slipped my mind. Sorry. Oh, I've messed that up. I had a great point. Damn it. Oh yeah, I remember
uh,
now. I always get like cold emails or sales pitches in my LinkedIn inbox from like email agencies or telecoms agencies, whatever. And they always say we can email 100,000 people a week. And I'm like, there's probably sub 3,000 people or companies that fit my target market in the world, in English speaking countries anyway. So you're going to email each of them 3 times a week. Yeah, I'm sure that's going to work. It's like a lot of these like email 100,000 a week only work if you're selling like a SaaS product or an AI product or something along those lines. because that are universal in general. A lot of niche audiences and niche products and services, you
Yeah,
can't blast that
it
much
works
volume.
if you've got it works if you've got a very, very, very specific client and you're offering a very, very specific solution and you have the numbers to prove that it works.
And there's a
Um,
big target market as well.
but now with AI, everybody can have a fucking SaaS in 3 months. So it's just
If
becoming
that.
super noisy and like all of it, everybody advertises, oh, the AI will, read something about the company and personalize the message. I'm with this. I'm like talking to these guys almost daily, and um, yeah, the AI personalization is just super generic and shit. So what ends up happening is people still have to write if they want to convert. They still have to write their own emails, and so on. So that brings the question: is will one way to really, really stand out from everyone doing this is just going super personal and pick
Yeah,
people one by one and being unique and stand out from the crowd. I recently seen a company that like sends physical letters,
well,
old
I
school
mentioned
letters
I
to
mentioned last
prospect.
week about the cubes that I sent out on behalf of one of my
Oh yeah.
clients. Like that was a great way. It only might have I can only book 2 meetings with like 2 different companies, but considering he can only work with less than 100 companies, you take those 2 meetings are potentially worth what 80 grand each minimum in terms of
Mm.
lifetime customer value. Because like I'm not how do I say this? Because as we were talking about earlier about tracking data in a CRM, I create CRMs for all my clients, all that sort of stuff. So we'd mark like what stalled that deal, what their major concern were. And my favorite way of like addressing that, not scale, but when you have like 5 or 10 people who've stalled the deal or pushed back on one specific objection, is creating some sort of like unique marketing resource and sending it to those 5, 10 people. You'll always get a couple of bites, assuming it's unique. So it doesn't have to be each individual person, but you can create almost universal resources that can help 5 to 20 to give it a little bit more scale than just one person at a time.
Back to the topic of will the main trend for 2026 be real human connections?
Potentially, I know I
And
agree
talking to
that
more people.
I think that it does, but I don't know what that real human connection looks like. If
Diego
you
made a good point. People are returning to the old ways. People are selling physical postcards, and it works. It's crazy, right? We
no, I
used to
do like
have
that.
our indoor house mailbox spammed with leaflets, but now our social media inboxes are spammed. Our emails are spammed. So it's almost like, if you're sending a physical letter, you're competing with like the local pizza joint and and a
But when
burger
you
place around the corner and a house cleaning. So you're 1 out of 5. Where if you reach out to people in DMs on LinkedIn, I get at least 5 connections that are simply just spam cells every single day, and I'm not even that big of an account.
ever since I niched, my numbers have went right down, thankfully. I might get like 3 a week compared to like 30.
Yeah,
It's
and
what
my
the
I
point.
don't even mention I get at least like 5 promos every day on my email. I don't even read my emails anymore unless I'm
Neither.
expecting something.
Well,
So
I
like the
think
digital side is getting so spammed that
if it's
will
not
just
niche,
talking to people, will just talking to people be the most efficient way to do any B2B sales?
This is because when you mentioned earlier, like people are looking for human connection. I agree, but I don't know what that necessarily looks like. Because in the industries that I
Yeah.
work in, trade shows especially have kind of become a massive waste of money and time. Because people have been using it for lead gen for the best part of 20 years, but they only do that because it's been, you know, it's not because it's the best option because they've always done it. So when you say human connection, trade shows are going down in popularity and in terms of results because people are having to spend thousands to go there and potentially close a deal 18 months down the line. So I agree that human connection is gonna be the trend of 2026, but I don't know what that looks like because it's not gonna be in-person events because generic networking events are pure luck of the draw. And trade shows have been declining in performance, especially in the industries that I work in ever since the pandemic. So I don't know what human connection looks like. I like the in-person marketing, like the cubes that are sent out on behalf of that client. I think that's a really cool example. Then that still eventually resulted in a virtual Teams meeting. So I don't know what the human connection looks like.
A lot of niche events on the rise. So rather than those big, massive events with like thousands and thousands of people that just have like generic umbrella, I've been noticing a lot of like smaller gatherings, 20, 50, 100 people about a specific topic, very, very specific topic. I've
I
seen a
was
big
I
rise
was
in that.
talking to pretty much my only competitor in industries that I work in. It's a bigger company than me. They've got like a few members of staff, but they work with slightly. I normally work with companies with like between 15 and 50 employees. They work with like companies with hundreds. But their main marketing method that works for them is to literally just put a few grand behind a bar, invite the biggest decision makers in the local area, and have a massive piss up. That's literally their main marketing strategy these days. But
I've
I think that's mad how he was telling us the last time they did it was a Christmas event down near in Birmingham when the at the NE just outside the NEC they competed directly with that, had 100 people come and they've spent 2.5 grand just getting drunk. And it I think that's meant. I don't know how you market that. I don't know. It's why all of this sounds great in theory, but in practicality I can't picture what it looks like. And I've tried for weeks to try and
yeah.
picture it.
I know another person in the States that actually does like very, very specific high-end events where they'll literally just invite like 10 people around the table,
Mm-hmm.
and have like fancy dinners and introductions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But they're like super, super specific. And
Yeah.
it's when they normally try to close, like their target is like they try to close one person, but they will just like invite 10 specific guests or 12 people to like a
Mm-hmm.
super fancy event, and then they'll invite that person, and
So
that's
let's,
how they kind of start building the trust, right?
because I imagine that's high end stuff, obviously, and the marketing agency I talk to
Oh
got
yeah, we're talking like the
to,
deals in the hundreds, thousands,
and the one the marketing agency I was referring to, their average deal size is between 10 and 20 grand. So what do we say is the best route for the small businesses? Because the pure ease of digital will always be appealing to not low budget, but they can't just put 2.5 grand behind a bar 6 or 7 times a year.
Yeah. I think like the 10 to 20 grand, up to 10 to 50 even ticket. Um, size, I really feel like actually talking to people in person as much as possible and attending those in-person events, or just, talking to people initially online and then switching
Mm-hmm.
off to in-person, or just carrying on video conversations
Yeah.
over time, because we know like those sales cycles are fairly long.
Minimum
But I feel
7 8
like just trying to not necessarily reach like a mass market and sends, hundreds of messages, thousands of messages, but target people super, super, super specifically. So I actually had a conversation 2 weeks ago in one of the business groups I'm in. One of the founders of like an agency that sold for a couple of million was sharing some insights on how they close like some of the biggest clients. And it was super interesting actually, because they, rather than offering their main service, they try to use like a foot through the door technique. So they'll make a list of like those big companies, big contracts, right? When the contract would be worth like 50 grand minimum instead of like a 3K a month service. And they would just make a list of those companies and look at everything that they're doing. Not necessarily like, oh, this is what we have to sell. They would just look at everything that they're doing and think like, okay, where do these guys spend or waste the most money? And what can we fix? Or maybe they just like, maybe it's like a marketing agency, but but this company spends like shit ton of money in fees for like packaging or something. So what they would do is they would hire a person that has experience in that field. So they might not have any like marketing experience. They might not feel in the basic stuff, but they will hire like, a packaging expert that worked with this sort of companies somewhere else. And initially on like a short term, right? So it's not about paying this person, you know, 200 grand or something. It's like, okay, we'll get you in for like 3 months and you've got a goal. Get those companies. So the reason the way they will start that conversation is not like, oh, we're selling this service, but like, hey, you have this specific, very, very niche specific problem that I know how to solve, and they will start with that, almost like offer free help and then hook them in and then upsell from there. But they were hiring like specific people in those niche markets just to like open up the relationship with those companies, which I thought was super interesting.
No, smart,
Um,
really smart.
Rather than just going to them, oh, we sell this service, and I'm like,
No, it's because
we already have another company doing that,
I'm
right?
a massive fan of the lead-in. Obviously, that's a more super specific version of like a lead-in offer. Like my cheapest offer is ridiculously cheap, but it's to make people think that cheap offer is competing with someone saying, "Oh, let's try into AI tool with 30, 40 quid." So I make my lead-in super super cheap to massively like overachieve expectations, and then they'll advance to the bigger offer. I think that's the smart way to do it these days because people like to like one of my mates, a good friend of mine, a former client, made a post saying everyone's concerned about AI taking their job. And it was full of got like 60 comments from people saying AI will never take my job. I'm the top 1%, all that sort of stuff. Because AI taking all these damaging your business is a real threat. So having that lead in that makes that initial purchase a lot reducing the risk on the customer. I think that
Yeah,
it's not a necessity, but you're making your life more difficult if you don't do it, in my opinion, anyway.
no, it's gonna be an interesting year.
I'm excited though, because like how to finish up this show just talking about like our reflections from 2025 and our goals for 2026. I think that's a nice little closing
I
topic, if
I do
you
want
will.
to briefly talk about Meta before we
Okay.
go. I think it's an interesting topic.
Okay. Shoot.
just because, like, you see all the marketing and everybody pushing for software, more software, more software, make your SaaS, build your app, right? All of those, you got Lovable growing like crazy, all those other tools, everybody's making AI apps and all that crap. Not the big businesses, though. Meta has officially launched Meta Compute, a new top-level business unit. So Meta, for those who don't know, Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg. Meta's launched new top-level business unit dedicated solely to building and managing company's fleet of data centers. Meta is committing 72 billion to AI infrastructure. Yeah, yes, Diego. 72 billion to AI infrastructure this year alone. And the signal there is that this move signals a shift from buying cloud space and working in software to actually owning the physical engines, right? So all the data centers, there are the hardware powering all of the AI tools, all the automations, and everything. So what does this mean for founders? At the bottom, if the big players are betting on the integration of hardware rather than purely focusing on the software now. So big tech is moving from software to actually being more of a land grab and going after all the data centers. They're starting to almost ignore the software they're making and are simply going for ownership of the data center. And this reminds me actually of it's almost becoming like McDonald's. For those who don't know, McDonald's is not a food business. McDonald's is real estate business. They own the restaurants. They own the supply chain. They don't care about the food part. And it seems like all the big tech companies are going in the same way. So what does that mean for us people on the bottom, where they say software doesn't matter, where we're just gonna own all the hardware?
I have no idea. I don't know. Like, I suppose the answer has whatever they want it to mean for us because they have all the power.
Diego asked, what does it mean with the metaverse? Yeah, it's still there, but I think they realize that there's just more money in owning AI data centers and hardware, and just let people do whatever they want and not really worrying about the software. But the thing is, and we've noticed a small rise in offline AI agents. This means, AI agents and software not dependent on the big tech cloud computing and software living locally on your own tech. So enterprise companies are already looking into that. But should small business owners start looking into that, and instead of AIing on ChatGPT and whatever, all those AI companies, should we look at making our own solutions? And Stefan said it in our last week's show, where we'll get to the point where most small businesses will be able to just make their own software, build their own agents, do their own stuff. Will we see a shift to go more into that? And will that mean we'll maybe spend a bit more money on hardware? Diego's got a comment. It's getting concerning because there's in fact a techno-feudalism, and a few people are talking about this. Yes. Sorry, Joe. Is this not your topic?
Oh no, I'm genuinely trying to think because I can't get past my original answer of whatever happens is whatever they want to happen. But then when you were
Hmm.
saying that potentially the smaller businesses invest in that much of an infrastructure, that makes me then think of the one of the I think it was the first or second topic where businesses have become so risk averse, and especially with not a lot of people who aren't who don't run businesses like so dependent on the internet, they won't be as knowledgeable about AI as potentially me, or and there's a lot of people more knowledgeable about AI than me. So they're not going to just take a massive risk on a fancy AI hardware tool or investment.
Yeah.
So again, it comes back to those big tech companies. They have the knowledge, the power, and the money to throw money at it. So if it doesn't work out, it doesn't affect them that much, really.
Yeah, and we can see how big of a like driving factor it becomes. And I'll tell you what, I was doing some cost analysis for some AI features for Founders Tree.
Mm-hmm.
So we
Like
want
what
to
AI
add,
features?
we
I was going to
want
ask
to
what
add,
AI features. So I
yeah,
was going to ask the
one
feature. Sorry, sorry. Do you go speak? I shut up.
one thing we wanted to add to Founders Tree is just like a AI contact search. So you can just, instead of like, I always have this problem. I when I talk to people, I'm like, oh, I know just the right person you need to talk to. I spoke to them like 6 weeks ago, and I just cannot remember the name. Right? I'm like, oh. I even remember the face because I, might have had a video call. I remember the face. I remember what we talked about. I just cannot remember the name. And I cannot find them because, like, on LinkedIn, the search is shit.
Yeah, it's
It's
bad.
impossible. I use Condo as well. It's not very good there. You cannot like move all your contacts to WhatsApp, and even on WhatsApp, it's not very good. So there's just like no, unless you keep every single record and conversation in like a custom CRM,
Mm-hmm.
there's and like super categorized and labeled, and everything is like perfectly, organized.
Yeah.
Which to be honest, nobody ever does. Um, it's like so hard to keep a track of people in your network, especially with LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is made to be spammy, right? LinkedIn is made to send 20 connections a day.
Yeah.
You cannot just like add one person a day because you're not gonna get the results. You have to connect to a shit ton of people because half of the people gonna be inactive. The other half of that half that are active are not gonna reply to you because they're getting spammed. Um, so if you want any conversations, you gotta max things out. Anyway,
So what was
we
the
were
point?
adding. So,
So what
so
was
I
the
thought,
point of
like,
reading that?
what if we make a feature? And it was like one of the main reasons why I built the bloody platform in the first place. Like, I wish I could just like say, hey, find the marketing guy I spoke to 6 weeks ago about this food place in London.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember like the conversation we had or something, but I just can't remember who the hell this was, right? And I want to build it in. And I was running some cost analysis and like scaling, and say we've got like 10,000 paid users or something, and everybody's got a big network. And it was crazy. It was crazy. I mean, it's a good problem to have. I was like, okay, if we make like 3 million in revenue, right, a month or something.
Mm-hmm.
But the costs were just racking up like crazy. I was looking at the analysis, like, okay, well, I make 3 million. I spent like 1 million, like 30% of it on just this fucking AI search thing. That's how much it's gonna cost. Just like,
Oh
and
yeah.
half of it, like $500,000 a month will be just like to store the data. So that's what Meta is doing. They're putting all those fucking data centers, right? Just to keep that data for people.
Well, it's like we talked about something similar last week. How Meta already have like almost all the customers you can get. Everyone in their nan has Instagram, so they can't keep expanding the demographic. So they've got to get more
Or
out of.
Facebook.
Yeah, so they've got
Yeah.
they've got to get more money out of their existing customer base because of this hyper capitalistic world we somehow end up living in. So they're gonna have to start grabbing people by the balls and doing this sort of stuff. So God knows what's gonna happen.
Yeah, and the same thing like happens to all those companies, right? Google, Meta, the big players. They're noticing they've got no other way to go. Like they can't make the platforms better. They can't squeeze more money there. So they gotta focus on the hardware because everybody can make software now, and you can make software amazingly quick. And we've proven it, right? Any company can raise a couple of million from VC and make whatever the next software in months.
Yeah.
That will take everything over. So how can they combat that? They can combat that with owning the hardware. So what those companies cannot do? Well, any of those unicorn companies cannot invest 72 fucking billion into data centers. They may raise, right, whatever, right, Lovable, the biggest Europe unicorn, right, Lovable. They raised recently 330 million. Shit ton of money, right? 300 million investment they've got, so they can build the software. But that's nothing, right, in this picture. Meta's putting 72 fucking billion in hardware alone.
So I guess Meta will be. I guess when I mentioned earlier about the gaming crash, how Nintendo just won out because they had the most money and they were the best. I guess that Meta's just gonna get a monopoly on this industry like Nintendo doing
And
gaming.
it's not just them. And it's not just them. So we'll finish up this topic probably. There's another part to it, and Meta is not alone. So Bloomberg reported that Reliance, so OpenAI has signed a 38 billion partnership with AWS. So AWS is Amazon equivalent, Amazon data center, right? So OpenAI and Microsoft signed a 38 billion deal for Amazon to provide all the data and computing power for the ChatGPT and all the OpenAI stuff.
Jesus.
That's the biggest. That's how Nvidia becomes the most fucking valuable company in the world, right? And Nvidia is winning again because they're providing all the technology for Meta, for Microsoft, for OpenAI.
Jesus.
That's how they've gone from 500 million to 5 trillion in 4 years.
Well, that's a nice depressing way to finish the episode, isn't it?
So this is becoming a trend now for this year. All the big players are building literally tech cities. They're building data centers so fucking big, they're like towns.
Nice.
So where's this going? Where's this going? That's a good question. Right? The sheer scale of
I was going to say
the demand for AI.
it's basically the modern day industrial revolution, isn't it? Realistically, There'll be millions of new jobs that we do not even think of because we're too advanced of a society to have people who cannot work because of the machines. We'll find some awful job that humans need to do.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a great second episode.
As always.
Looking
And
forward to
we'll
next
see
week.
you guys on the next one, Wednesday, 2 p.m. GMT, as always. Same bad time, same bad channel. Bye.
Catch you later. Right, now we need to end the stream.